warm welcome to everybody today. It's really good to see some of you that I know. Hi, Craig. Hi, Patrick, and many new faces who I haven't had the opportunity to meet yet. So would love to invite everybody just to take a moment to drop your name, location, and if you're here with an organization, maybe drop the name of that organization as well into the chat. It's awesome to see people from all over the United States, Asheville, Dallas, Berlin, and Portugal, Indianapolis. Awesome. It's great to see you all today. My name is Alex, and I'm based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I'm on the team here at In Rhythm and with Life. And I'm really, excited to be with you all here today at the Cultivator program preview and mentor meetup. So I just wanted to give a quick shout out to the team members who are here. We have John from Capital Institute, Natalie and Trey from the In Rhythm team, and Mo from Zebra Growth. You'll have the chance to hear from all of them today. We're really excited and want to give you all a warm welcome. We're going to be exploring the question together of how might we cultivate growth and create the conditions for long-term organizational health and resilience, and ultimately new unrealized potential. We're really here to explore how we can cultivate the next generation of organizations, paving the way to a regenerative future. So today, a little bit about what we're going to do. We're going to dive into, well, okay, what is with life? We're here to talk about a cultivator and a cultivator that is with life. What do we mean by that? What is it? Trey is going to guide us through why cultivate, not accelerate. And we'll give you a program overview as well as some details on the application in case you're interested in applying. And then we'll have some time for questions. Our intention is to spend about 50 minutes here together today to give some space for folks who may have other things at the top of the hour. Does that sound good? Cool. I'm seeing some more introductions come in, which is awesome. A couple people from Asheville. You two should make sure you connect. Awesome. Okay, so what is with life? So we recognize that we're really at a critical juncture. We're at a really pivotal moment in time, a time where our societal and environmental systems are really strained and plagued by injustice, extraction, and separation, which is ultimately perpetuated by the mechanistic systems that are designed into all of the systems that we have created. But with life is an approach that empowers us to reconnect, regenerate, and heal by designing, managing, and monitoring in alignment with the patterns of living systems. It offers a new path forward because all of us are ultimately searching for new ways of creating systemic change. And this is a path forward to be able to create the change we want. And Natalie, would you like to want to say a quick hello and speak to our vision for With Life?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalie. I'm based in Marietta, Georgia, outside of Atlanta in the US. And I wanted to just briefly give you a sense of our larger vision. So we do have a big and bold vision for the future to realign all of these broken systems with life. And to realize that vision, we are continually building out new content, courses, workshops, and experiences across all these different areas, from organizations and economies to agriculture, marketing, healthcare, manufacturing, you name it, and also technology, all designed to help build your capacity to design, manage, and monitor with life. And we'll talk a little bit more about what that means and what we mean by that as we keep going today.
Awesome. So as Natalie alluded to, With Life programming is really giving you the opportunity as an individual or within your organization, and really thinking of organizations broadly. That could be a nonprofit, it could be a business, it could be a co-op or a social enterprise or government institutions. So we think of organizations super broadly. And the intention of those programs is really to build capacity around the With Life approach. And so we have everything from courses, workshops, tools across all sectors, like Natalie just described, really with the intention of of being available globally and shifting people's mindsets and operations to align with the patterns of living systems. And currently, these offerings are brought to life through a partnership between In Rhythm and Capital Institute, and our mission to support the global transformation to a more just and regenerative world. And we'll share more about the cultivator specifically in a moment, and the wonderful partnership we're also cultivating with Zebra Growth. So in terms of just, Natalie, you want to speak a little bit to the current offerings that we have within this landscape?
Sure. So yeah, we have, as Alex described, we have sort of a wide variety of offerings, and we're going to talk a little bit more in detail about them a little bit later on in this conversation. But just to give you a brief overview, our current offerings are really designed, like Alex said, to help build your capacity and to support transformation at multiple levels. So we are weaving a conceptual understanding of our theory of change. What do we mean by the with life approach? Um, all the way into practical application. So in alignment with our vision, we're evolving and expanding these offerings all the time to support regenerative approaches to organizational design, managing and monitoring, or regenerative approaches to economics and finance, to growth marketing, and more.
Awesome. And so we're all here today gathered to explore what is the cultivator. That is one of our kind of cornerstone offerings of With Life. And so we'll share a little bit more. I'll invite Trey actually to share a little bit more about why we believe we need to cultivate and not accelerate. Over to you,
Great.
Trey.
Thank you, Alex. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to spend just a little bit of time giving you a deeper understanding and context for the work we are doing in the world and why cultivation, or in particular this program, is a key aspect of our approach. Alex, if you'll go to the next slide. So part of the emergence of the cultivator really is rooted in some history. And in particular, several of us have some deep entrepreneurial background, but mine in particular has happened over the last 35 years of working towards creating systems change in multiple different environments. And that led me down a lot of different paths. But for this in particular, it was the path of trying to recognize I wanted to create real change in people's lives and in the communities that they were a part of. But got deeply involved in what were more traditional incubators and accelerators as a young entrepreneur, and always felt in conflict with what that was. And partly because it was very much focused on the end game, which was the building your organization to sell or building your team to grow, and not really focused on the people that were a part of that system. And so about 15 years ago, I had the opportunity to be inspired, is probably the best word, to see everything far more holistically. And I actually naturally was there in a lot of different ways, but in particular, it changed because I had the opportunity to dive deeply into land restoration work globally. And in doing so, I began to see things through the eyes of an ecosystem, to, in essence, a living system versus most of our designs have been based and organized around a machine design, or even more specifically, we would probably recognize an industrialized design. And that's where I met, which you'll hear from John Fullerton. And John was inspired out of those engagements with Alan Savory and some others to deeply dive into the economy and reimagining what that was. And I drove deeply into what it looked like to inspire and reimagine organizations. And so that inspiration really provided the conditions for a new generation of the systems and organizations that were more aligned with life as an ecosystem than aligned with the replacing parts that are associated with machines. And so in rhythm emerged out of that. What did it look like to be in rhythm with life versus being against her, and working in the dissonance versus the resonance of that design? And deeply as a part of that, we saw the opportunity to create conditions that allowed for even more potential. What we recognize is unrealized potential in the system. And that also allowed us to continue to build relationships to reimagine all aspects and functions of an organization. And today you'll get a chance to hear from Mo at Zebra Growth, which is about reimagining marketing and communications through the lens of regeneration and life versus through our typical grow, grow, grow mantra that tends to happen in most of our accelerators and incubators. Alex, can you move to the next slide? So in the terms of understanding why cultivation, I kind of want to hit it around four key areas. One is complexity. We have a variety of challenges in our current system. And those challenges need organizations that have the capacity to address this growing complexity. And that complexity really centers around resource constraints, generational engagement, disengagement, inept tools that are just not capable of supporting us in the complexity that we're addressing, and the onslaught of information in ways that we could have never imagined. So in our idea, complexity actually means we have to shift our view of organizations from a machine to an ecosystem that could actually really embrace the complexity versus try to fight against it. Leadership needs to shift as well. We are so focused on leadership as a position or a role versus as an environment that develops and supports leadership in every department and function in the organization. Over and over again, we talk about, so who is those who have the leadership? Well, the leadership should be designed within the entire system. So it should be systemic leadership, not one that's focused on an individual and or a very limited function of the organization like the C-suite. The other aspect of why Cultivate is about development. Imagine what it looks like to have an organization that supports the maturation of the entire ecosystem, not just some aspects of the ecosystem, so that the conditions are there for the development of individuals regardless of role or function. We believe that, which leads to our fourth category, creates opportunities for potential that most are not realized in the current system. The current system in the machine design is designed for one particular outcome. This puts conditions in place to allow for emergence. And that emergence should be represented across the entire organization, not just one aspect of the organization. The C-suite is not the heart of the organization. The C-suite should be creating conditions for the entire ecosystem. Even if we reimagine leadership, the roles of that leadership, if they even stay in the traditional design, should shift how they empower those who are in the system to do the work of that organization. So this next quote, I think, really gives you an insight into that this is not just about small organizations. General Stanley McChrystal led the effort in Afghanistan and in the war effort. And this is what he said: the temptation to lead as a chess master, controlling each move of the organization, must give way to an approach as a gardener, enabling rather than directing. Gardening approach to leadership is anything but passive. The leader acts as an eyes-on, hands-off enabler who creates and maintains an ecosystem in which the organization operates. He was overseeing an effort that had 500,000 people involved in trying to do this work. And when you think about the complexity of that it talks about what does leadership look like in a distributed way versus in a centralized command and control way. And this really sets the conditions for the effort that we're talking about. We want to cultivate an environment that creates those kinds of conditions versus one that is focused primarily on productivity, efficiency, and growth. Next up. And so to land this into three particular areas for us to focus on is success. Why the accelerator versus the cultivator, or why the cultivator versus the accelerator? Um, Currently, we do not have the success rate that makes sense for how we design, manage, and monitor organizations. 90% of startups and 70% of change management fails. And it fails because it's actually designed more for the unicorn than it is designed for creating environments that thrive and are resilient and can last. And we think that needs to change. It does not need to be a situation where the majority of organizations that start need to die. That is a design issue, and we think that can change. And we should change it. And I think the cultivator is one example of ways that can change. Outcomes, productivity, efficiency, and growth are primary principles for the current design and measurement of most organizations. Should there be different influences on design and measurement? And our answer to that is yes. We don't believe productivity, efficiency, and growth are the only measures. And actually, if you were even thinking about it from a traditional standpoint, we would say those are lagging indicators, not leading ones. So what does it look like for us to create conditions and to monitor those conditions so that the outcomes are a natural recurring aspect of the system versus something forced, pushed, pulled? And then the last is teams. We believe that cultivators create an incredible amount of opportunity, and it addresses turnover and disengagement, in my mind, that are more analogous to our replaceable consumer products industry than growing in a maturing ecosystem. And what I mean by that is we make products today in the consumer space designed to be replaceable. And because of that, we constantly don't have to keep things in a state of health because we can replace it at any time. Unfortunately, we've applied that to all aspects of industry and organizations. And so if there's a line of people out the door, then it doesn't matter. We don't have to focus on creating conditions because we can replace somebody as fast as we hired them in the first place. But I will tell you that the cost and the ongoing potential loss is substantial. And there's an incredible amount of reports out there talking about that. And one report in particular estimates that it's costing global GDP almost 10%. So that's trillions of dollars of lost productivity and efficiency because the health in the system, turnover, disengagement, productivity that's not focused on someone's genius and energy is really all being capped in organizations today. And we're excited that we believe the cultivator and other people who are doing things similarly can shift those designs, can shift those mindsets, and create better conditions. So thank you for coming and listening and being a part of considering this as an option, as an alternative to what has typically been the approach. Thank you.
Thanks, Trey. Before we go into program overview, I just wanted to see if John, I know there's something you wanted to add, but also Mo and Natalie. John, is there something you'd like to add about the big picture? Why?
Sure. No, I thought, first of all, hi, everyone. And great to see some familiar faces and so many new faces. I guess I just would add to what Trey shared a couple points. I had the pleasure of visiting the Mondragon cooperatives earlier this year, and they have a program where they have so it's a network of 80 cooperatives, tens of billions in collective sales, run as a single ecosystem, and they have their version of a cultivator, I would say, where they fund startup projects. Most of them, I believe, based in that one place in the Basque Country, and they fund these with bank loans, not equity, and they have a success rate of, if I remember correctly, 75%. And so it's proof that there are other ways to do startups, and in their case, the startups get the benefit of being embraced in this ecosystem, just like it would be much easier to grow a new tree inside a forest than to put it out in the desert and try to water it. So this living systems both analogy but also literal approach is to me profoundly important. And I've not worked in a lot of accelerators, but I used to be the chief investment officer of Lab Morgan, which was JP Morgan's, kind of .com accelerator, if you will. And one of the reasons I left is I felt like every day was a fight. It was a fight between entrepreneurs and investors. It was a fight for entrepreneurs to even get access to get heard. It was a fight between prior investors and new investors, and the outcome wasn't great. And so I think this approach is vitally innovative and exciting, and I'm delighted to be a part of it. And then the final thing I would say is that I operate kind of at the, as my wife says, in the clouds, but I would rather say at the system 30,000 foot level. And one of the principles I talk about in our economics course is I use the language innovative, adaptive, and responsive. And one of our students corrected me in a sense and said, really, it would be better to say innovation that is adaptive and responsive to the current context. And what I'm sure will grow out of this cultivator are new enterprises, whether they're for-profit or other forms of enterprises, that are actually in response to the poly crisis, and not just some stupid new widget or whiz-bang app that is going to make somebody a lot of quick money. And so I think the role of new enterprises and the healthy growth and development of new enterprises is absolutely fundamental to the economic system transformation that we are embarked on. So I'm really delighted to see the interest, and not even knowing anything about what your projects are, I'm confident that they're a vital piece of the bigger shift that we're all passionate about.
Awesome. Love it. Thank you, John. Mo, is there anything you'd want to add at this stage from your perspective? And also say hi if you want.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. Lovely seeing so many faces, most of which are new. So maybe just a bit of context. My background is in, so over 12 years of growth marketing, digital marketing, worked in the startup innovation world and corporate venture builder world as well, until I hit full burnouts multiple times, which I think is also the reason why I'm here today. Because I think, meeting John, meeting Trey, Alex, the rest of the team, one of the biggest insight I made was we can't grow without being healthy and without being resilient. And so I just want to maybe leave one quote before we move on, and then pass it back to you, Alex. But one quote that really helped inspired me and also really is telling me why this is so important right now. It's by Bayo Akomolafe, a philosopher and a general genius that is somewhat connected to bigger powers, I think. He says, times are urgent, the world is burning right now, and so the time to slow down is now. And I think this is something that this is the theme that's been coming around my head over the past few months, but around the past few years, is like, if we continue to run faster in the wrong direction, we're actually just going to burn ourselves down even faster. And so this is why it's also so relevant right now. And I think I'll just close that here, Alex, and pass it back to you.
I love that, Mo. That's a beautiful quote. It is really all about slowing down to be able to move fast in a healthy way. Before we move on to program overview, Natalie, I just wanted to, not to put you on the spot, but anything you'd want to add to the bigger picture before we get into program overview and details?
No, let's keep going.
Let's
Thank you.
do it. All right. Awesome, everybody. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of sense of how the program is designed and what you could expect, really to give you a flavor and to see if it's something you could see your team participating in, or another team that you know. So what is the cultivator? More specifically, we've talked about the big why, but what is it in essence and who is it for? So it's a 6-month online cohort-based program. It's for late-stage startups and established organizations who are really who are going through a period of significant growth and significant change. And like John said, who are really committed to solving the poly crisis of our time and creating a regenerative future. And this is for organizations across all industries. As you saw when Natalie presented kind of the vision and where we're going with Life, this is a cross-industry initiative. So we want to impact everything from AI to real estate to the economics to, I mean, you name it. So industry agnostic as well as for all types of organizations. This is not an incubator just for a business. This is also for nonprofits, for co-ops. And it's really designed for teams of up to 5 people. But that is flexible. So if you have a larger team, reach out. And the other thing I'll add is that, yes, while it's designed for late stage startups and established organizations, we have had a number of earlier stage startups in our pilot program participate, and I believe they have gotten tremendous value. So it's not exclusively for late stage startups and established organizations, although it's well suited for that. I'd say the biggest thing is the ability for you to have the to be able to make the commitment in the time and the investment, and to have a team in place and be ready to commit to the program would be the biggest thing. Some of the core components we have designed into the program, one would be one-on-one mentorship. So all the people you've heard from today from our team, as well as others who are not able to make it today, will be available to you who have a range of expertise, everything from business development to growth marketing to business planning to business models. Really, our expertise runs the gamut across all kinds of industries, and all of our team members will be available to you to support you in the needs that you have across all the functional areas of your organization, whether that's HR or marketing or meetings or aligning your purpose with your vision. So that's kind of the first piece. The second piece is capacity building courses and workshops, which we'll hear more about in a moment. Those are really all with the purpose of building your team's capacity to be able to operate in alignment with Life. There's also a dynamic peer-to-peer environment. So you're going to be going through this with a cohort of other organizations. And our pilot cohort, which at the time was called the Incubator Program, is really all about, has about 10 organizations from all different types of industries. Patrick, I think you're here today from our first cohort. It's been really wonderful to get to know them across everything from brick and mortar coffee shop to a big vision, next generation. What does it look like to create regenerative real estate? To education firm who we'll share more about in a moment too. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's really designed to support all the functional and strategic areas of the organization. So we're going to be looking at every aspect of what you do and aligning that with Life. And wanted to also say that the time commitment is roughly 4 to 6 hours per week. But our hope is that this is really more viewed as a part of what you're already doing. So our hope is that this is complementary. This is viewed as something that's just integrated and woven, and that we almost become an extension of your team, or like an ecosystem like John was describing. And the other thing I'll add is, like, this is really our most complete program. You'll have access to everything that we've described today in the capacity building courses, workshops, and tools, really with the intention of giving you the most comprehensive possible overview of the tools and workshops that we offer to be able to put this into practice. So a sample program journey, this is just to give you a sense of, okay, what will those 6 months look like? So you would really start by meeting your cohort, getting oriented to the program, connecting with your mentors, beginning to build relationships with your peers and other organizations participating. And then what you're going to do is you're going to go into some design work. You're going to work with your mentors and your peers and your team to really understand and define your unique living systems framework for your organization. And then what's going to happen is you're going to monitor for health. You're going to work to better understand, using the organizational health assessment, better understand the current state of your organization, so that you can really, in any planning that you're doing, it can be informed by the current dynamics of the environment that you're creating. And then we're going to build your capacity to lead for complexity. Like Trey said, we need to imagine leadership leadership needs to be a systems-based approach. Leadership should be for the system, not just for the few. And so what we'll do is we'll engage you in capacity building courses and workshops to really build your capacity to lead for complexity, so that you can create conditions for the outcomes, the health, and the resilience that you really want for your organization and your team. And then you're going to go to market with alignment. So Zebra Growth is really leading this portion of the work, and we'll share more about it in a moment. But the idea is to be able to do regenerative marketing with life. So you'll translate your purpose and your foundational beliefs into a strategic, iterative go-to-market strategy that really looks at the whole, it's action-packed and it's long-term. But we'll share more about this in a moment. And then you'll have the opportunity to really integrate and synthesize what you learned, your journey in the program, and if it is applicable to you, opportunity to engage with values-aligned investors. So we can speak more to this in a moment too, but we are building and have engaged multiple investors in relationships to be able to support the organizations coming out of the cultivator. And woven throughout the whole experience is office hours, so the ability for you to come to a session with all of the mentors. And we know that every organization is very unique and has challenges emerging all of the time. And so we've created this biweekly office hour structure so that you can come and say, hey, I'm really having trouble with this piece. Can I get support on that right now? You'll also have monthly peer group meetings where you're engaging with other organizations on this journey and being able to learn from one another across different industries, different stages. There's a lot of wisdom from learning from your peers. And then throughout that time, you'll also have access to all of the courses on regenerative economics and finance to be able to engage with and continue to deepen your ability to operationalize the With Life approach. And yeah, I wanted to give you a little bit more in-depth overview about those capacity building workshops, courses, and tools. And so I'll hand it over to first Natalie.
Thanks, Alex. Yeah, so like Alex said, part of the experience in this cultivator is to be able to get access to all of our programming, not just what we have right this minute, but also what's currently being developed. And all of that is with the intention to build your capacity to operate with the With Life approach in your organization. So, you might start with fundamentals of the With Life approach, which is our course where you will learn the history of and explore some of the very real outcomes of how the machine model has sort of come to be the standard model for organizations. You'll also learn about an alternative to that model. You'll get an introduction to our living systems framework for organizations, which is not only our core conceptual framework, but it's our practical framework for how you will be able to design, manage, and monitor with life as you build out, transform, change, and grow your organization for resilience, for health. Then in Design Lab, you're really going to get the practical hands-on workshop to do that, right? So in the fundamentals course, you'll sort of learn about it. And then in the Design Lab, you'll be able to walk through the process of creating that design so that you can emerge with a living systems framework for your organization. As has been discussed a little bit, the leadership program is really going to help give you the tools and help build your capacity to lead through complexity using the frameworks and tools of the With Life approach, and to really sort of reorient the way you're thinking about and approaching leadership from that lens. The organizational health assessment is a tool that you can use to measure and monitor your organization's regenerative capacity. So this is really going to let you better understand the current state of your organization in your current context so that you can develop a plan that recognizes the current dynamics and the contributions of everyone on your team, and also helps you understand and consider how your organizational design choices impact the underlying health and emergent outcomes in your organization. So that's just a little bit of what is available as part of the cultivator and as part of the larger With Life programming. And now I'm going to pass it over to Mo to talk a little bit more about what you will be able to learn and explore with regard to regenerative marketing.
Thank you so much, Natalie. So within the regenerative go-to-market or marketing kind of section of the program, really, we're going to go through building your go-to-market strategy from end to end, but really with a regenerative and living systems lens applied to everything, right? So it's really shifting our mindsets initially and looking at our market as an ecosystem and looking at the different ecosystems we're also a part of. It's looking at how we can start to launch in a regenerative approach, thinking about our journeys and our different channels in the most holistic way as we can. It's also looking at how we can actually look at the health of not just our own organization, but the health of the ecosystem that we're wanting to serve, right? And really prioritize that in all of our marketing and go-to-market activity that we're going after. And finally, we're also going to make sure that we're going to have a strategy that makes us confident and actually explore, experiment, iterate, really kind of taking that regenerative approach, but also applying it into how we learn as we go with our marketing and go-to-market efforts. And really at the end, also make sure that we actually have confidence around us being self-sustainable on a financial terms as well. So looking at the health impact and financial sustainability of what we're trying to build and launch into our ecosystems.
Awesome. Thanks, Mo. Over to you, John. Do you want to share a little bit in a couple minutes about CI's courses and offerings?
Sure. These are, again, more big picture to see the broader context of how I'm imagining not just individual enterprises being organized and led and focused in a new way, but how it fits into an entire new approach to economics. And I think most people that experience this sort of, even if your intention is not to become an economist or a policymaker, it helps make sense of the chaos we're all experiencing, both in terms of diagnosing how we got here, but also seeing the logic of shifting from this mechanistic reductionist approach to how we manage everything from the entire economy to individual enterprises. It is a fresh worldview, and I think it is one of these things where once you see it, it's hard to unsee it, and everything you look at, you will see in a new way. So the way we've broken it down, there's the kind of core course is an introduction. It's called Introduction to Regenerative Economics, and we've just recently released, in a sense, a primer for that, which is the fundamentals course. It's just an online course, but the introduction is an 8-week in-person, lots of community engagement course. And then the finance program is broken into 2 pieces, one on investment and one on money and banking. And that, for me, is the double click on the finance week of the economics course to go into much more detail about the 2 core subjects, investment, where we talk about the limitations of this whole ESG conversation, the limitations of impact investing, and move into what regenerative investment might look like and how it and philanthropy are sort of artificially separated. And then for those that are interested in the money and banking system, there's a whole deep dive onto that, where we talk about everything from complementary currencies and using crypto technology to create complementary currencies. So it's all sort of bigger picture, economics and finance focused, as opposed to entrepreneur focused. But entrepreneurs and enterprises operate within this bigger context and are often whipsawed around by forces they probably don't fully understand and feel just hostile, as opposed to something that we can make better sense of. I could keep talking, but I'll probably leave it at that, Alex.
Thanks, John.
Actually, one last thing I'd say. I don't know. I can't keep track of the numbers, but there's well over 1,200 people that are part of the core CI course alum community, and they're doing lots of cool stuff now with each other after meeting in the course. And so, that I think most people, and particularly many who've taken the course multiple times. In fact, I see Sharon's here today. I think Sharon's taken it every single time we've offered it. But the opportunity to collaborate and find kindred spirits is probably the most valuable thing about the course.
Awesome. Thanks, John. And yeah, as a part of the whole program, which many of you are already in the With Life community, but we really encourage participation in all of these courses and workshops, but also really having the opportunity for you to engage with that broader community and create new connections and collaborations too. Awesome. So I just also wanted to cover a couple of other things about the program. We often get asked the question, well, what does a typical week in the cultivator look like? And we like to say there's not really such thing as a typical week necessarily, because no two organizations are the same. And that a typical week might look like meetings with your mentors, participating in some of the workshops that you just heard about. It could be conversations with inspirational thought leaders, operationalizing your design, connecting with your cohort, and office hours to help you solve any pressing issues. And then again, because we recognize no two organizations and no two cohorts are the same, we really try and keep a pulse on what the cohort needs. And as a program team, we try and evolve as we go to be able to cater to that and really offer you the most valuable experience possible. And also wanted to share a little testimonial from our pilot program. Steve Dobo, founder and CEO of Zero Dropouts, which is an education social enterprise based out of Colorado. He said that our leadership team at Zero Dropouts is just finishing up the inaugural year-long cultivator experience. We were looking for something to revitalize and bring our leadership team together and point the way to the future during a challenging transition period in our organization. In Rhythm and the With Life Cultivator team more than did this with access to their quality team members, an organizational health assessment, courses on design and leadership, access to courses on regenerative economics and finance, and teaming with 10 to 15 other organizations in the program looking for opportunities for transformation. I highly recommend this experience to bring your team to a different level and help you cultivate the conditions to bring about health and emergent outcomes for you and your organization. So I hope that inspires you, helps you see yourself in this if you're considering it, and happy to share more insights from former participants if that's valuable to you. Before we go into Q&A, just a little bit of details on how to apply, some of the deadlines. Currently, the application deadline is set to August 16th. We might extend that. There's been a couple of requests, so keep an eye out for that. But currently, the application deadline is August 16th. There's an application form available on our website. If you have any questions about it, just reach out. The enrollment deadline, if you're accepted into the program, really we're trying to curate a cohort of organizations with diversity across industries, across nations, and we're trying to make sure this is a really good fit for those who apply. So we'll let you know by August 30th whether or not you're accepted into the program. And the program will begin the week of September 9th with an orientation session. Again, the duration is 6 months, and there is an investment of $20,000 available. If you need financial aid, if you really want to participate and you're like, this cost is a barrier, you're welcome to reach out to us to inquire about opportunities. And again, our website is inrhythm.co/cultivator.